It's November. Soon we're going to start talking about the holidays. But between then and now, there's plenty of time for you to get the sniffles or even worse. So with that in mind, we spoke with the Associate Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Joanna Oda, about some best practices for us all to try and make it through the winter healthy, despite what might be floating around in the air around us.
There are three viruses that we pay a lot of attention to because we have vaccines that can protect us against them. So those are influenza, COVID-19, and RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus.
So, as far as it goes, a person can contract a cough or cold or something like that. Should we go in and get a diagnosis for one of those? Or is it still a matter of, because we really found this during COVID, of if you feel something, you just stay home? What's best practice here?
So, like I said, for most people, these diseases will get better on their own. It's really just rest, fluids, and staying home if you can to prevent spreading it to others. When you might want to get checked out by a doctor is if you have a very young baby, so a baby under the age of 3 months, especially if they have a fever. You might want to get that infant checked out. And then again, if the disease lasts longer than a few days, sort of onto the 3 or 4 day mark, especially if it's not getting better, if it's getting worse, if that fever is persisting, if the cough is getting worse, and then thinking also about how you're feeling with if you have any other conditions. So if you have asthma, how's your use of your asthma medications? If you have a heart condition, how are you managing with your heart medications? If you're finding you're needing those more and more often, that might be another reason to get checked out. But again, for most people, most of the time, these diseases will resolve on their own with really simple home remedies of rest, fluids, a little bit of ibuprofen or acetaminophen if somebody's feeling really uncomfortable.
Now, during COVID, it was very much all about the vaccines. We were checking papers at the door if you were going anywhere or flying anywhere about the vaccine papers. Is it still important, though, for people to keep updated on these? Or if we've got the vaccine, we're good, we've done it?
Yeah, so we recommend that people get immunized with both COVID-19 and influenza vaccine every year. It's become a part of my family's way of getting ready for the winter, and I recommend it for everybody as part of their getting ready for winter. Again, as I said, influenza and COVID-19 circulate every year, and both of those viruses change a little bit every year. And so the vaccines are updated every year in order to better match the virus strain that's circulating. And that means that you go into the season well protected against these diseases. We can talk about some of the other ways that you can, like we talked about what to do if you're getting sick. But to prevent that illness, there are things like washing your hands regularly. That's, again, sort of the motherhood statement, covering your coughs and sneezes with a tissue or an elbow. Wearing a mask if you're out in a crowded indoor space, especially if you're feeling unwell or a little bit of that tickle. I'm not quite sure what that tickle is going to do. Staying home when you're sick, and then getting vaccinated is actually the best way to prevent anything from happening during the season. It might not prevent all of the viruses that are circulate right there, but you'll take a good chunk of them out.
Now, vaccines still a very hot topic, makes some people rather angry, dare I say. So, what do you say as a medical professional to people who are hesitant about getting vaccinated?
Yeah, I really like to understand from people why they're feeling hesitant. I think some people are feeling hesitant because they're sort of like, I've gotten this, and why can't I just stop doing this? Like how can it work if I need to get this every year? And so for those people, it's helpful to explain why I do make you do this every year. Like I said, it's very similar to other things we do every year to get ready for the winter. I change my tires every year because that's part of getting ready. I won't be ready until I do it. The vaccine changes every year, so that's why we need to do it. That's why we need to do it every year. I think other people are hesitant, honestly, just because it's no fun getting a poke in the arm. It hurts and it's inconvenient. I have to go make an appointment. I have to take time off work. Maybe I feel a little oogie after my vaccine, and I'm not feeling great. So I think for people like that, I always like to use the seatbelt analogy. I have never been in a car crash. I hope I am never in a car crash, but I put my seatbelt on every time I get into a car, and I wrestle my children into their car seats every time I get into a car, because I know I could never forgive myself if we were in a car crash, and I hadn't done everything I could to prevent that from happening.